This is the world's newest republic. Now, Barbados has already been a country, but it did change government types. It went from a monarchy to now a republic. The island nation swore in its first president, ending nearly 400 years of British rule. Basically, they traded Queen Elizabeth for Queen Rihanna, apparently. Not really, but like maybe symbolically. The British are just like slowly giving me Ottoman Empire vibes. Like their collapse has been very slow and kind of depressing, and everyone's wondering now when the other overseas territories might also do the same thing. This almost 10,000 mile road trip will be the same temperature year round. So starting in the most southern point in Texas, January 1st, you can slowly make your way up through the state, moving into Oklahoma by April 1st, but then you really gotta book it, making your way through Arkansas, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky. You got like 30 days to make it over to Virginia. This is to stay at the 70 degrees Fahrenheit temperature, at least on average for that month. Then you move on over to Wisconsin, and then all the way over almost to Idaho, which this trip can be done in 30 days, I believe. You could probably still be pretty relaxed, maybe. You gotta really slow down here. You probably have to go up into the Rockies in order to keep that 70 degrees temperature. And you loop all the way back down and end in California on December 31st. I don't know why anyone would do this, but it does kind of seem fun. I mean, you could either do this or pretty much just stay in Southern California the whole time. It's basically always 70 degrees here. This is about 21 degrees Celsius for my European friends. Piracy in the 21st century. And no, I'm not talking about the digital piracy. I'm talking like Pirates of the Caribbean style, except they've upgraded technology. Well, kind of, not that much. So pretty much any ships along the equator, they're still at risk for some piracy. But the really vulnerable points are the Gulf of Guinea, which has 43% of all attacks. And surprisingly, Somalia isn't even number one. I mean, that's like the meme this country is known for. 30% of attacks happen from the Horn of Africa, and then 19% happen around Indonesia. Nice to see this old tradition hasn't really left the Caribbean. Wait, should I say that? I don't think I should be saying that. This is why I've actually covered a lot of guides showing anti-piracy weapons on ships even today. They got a bunch of things going on. Water jets, sonic guns, even a laser beam. They're just trying to vaporize these foos, I guess. Piracy off the coast of Somalia has slowed down a lot in the last 10 years since the country's been rebuilding. You gotta love this map right here. The world according to Bhutan. Now, I've covered before the way this small little country sees Asia, at least, or specifically their neighbor China. They've chosen the ultra Chad way of not even recognizing either China or Taiwan, but I didn't realize to what extent they don't recognize like more than half the world. Now, this is slightly misleading though. This is countries where Bhutan has a formal diplomatic relationship with, but I guess another way to describe it is they just imagine all the other places don't actually exist. So the US is included. Actually, most of North America isn't even included. It's like half of South America. They don't even believe in the continent of Africa, except for this small little island down here. Right, that's an island. Actually, to Bhutan, we're living on just a giant archipelago type map, huh? This is also one of those posts where I can't tell if they recognize New Zealand or if they just forgot to put it down here. Dang, I really need answers. I should do a map simulation of one alliance just being all the countries recognized by Bhutan, and then on the other side, it's just all the countries that are not. Never underestimate that Thunder Dragon Empire, though. The world's longest non-stop flights. So the one I've specifically heard about is Perth to London. This is 17 hours and 20 minutes, but that isn't even actually the longest on this list though. Slightly longer than that is Houston to Sydney, Australia. That's only an extra 10 minutes long, but that's entirely over the Pacific Ocean. That would not be fun. I feel like that's how you just randomly disappear. Then there's Auckland, New Zealand to Doha, someplace in the Arabian Peninsula. That's 17 hours and 40 minutes. And finally on our list, I think this is a new one, isn't it? Singapore to New York. It's 18 hours and 45 minutes. No, thank you. I still have nightmares about my 14-hour flight that I took. I talk about it all the time. Like sometimes I feel like I never actually left that plane. I'm just in some sort of limbo fantasy world that I've made up inside of my head. I literally find myself Googling sometimes how to survive like 12+ hour flights. I'm just the type of person that can't sleep on planes. Maybe other people think it's like no big deal, but I'm just like awake the entire time, miserable. It's even worse because sometimes you're squeezed in between two people. Oh, I'm literally having a panic attack thinking about this right now. I guess this is kind of relevant just in case you want to jump out at any point. Why are there red and green lights on airplanes? So basically the big reason is to just figure out where exactly it is going. It's facing away from you, you're going to see that green on the right hand side. It's facing towards you, you're going to see it on the left hand side. You can also recognize the profile view, left or right, and then whether you're looking down or up at the plane, which I don't know why you'd be confused about looking down or up at the plane. Maybe I don't want to know. Homelessness in Japan between 2007 and 2020. So there was a little less than 20,000 homeless on the islands themselves, and fast forward 13 years later and it's less than 5,000. That is amazing. I wonder what they did to figure this all out, because we in the US are definitely still trying to figure that out. Random, but does the population decline help with this at all? Maybe there's like more places to house them? I don't know. A lot of them are undiscovered though because they're in internet cafes somewhere, or like cheap hotels or something. How many homeless people does the USA have? I'm gonna say over 100,000. Oh, way over 100,000. Quite possibly 500,000. All right, we have a long way to go to hit 5,000. Convenience store chains with most locations in each state. I didn't realize that like gas stations were considered convenience stores. Chevron has completely taken over the Pacific states, and a little bit further in, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of Chevrons, but I thought there was a lot of 7-Elevens as well. 7-Elevens are most popular though in the East Coast, in New York, New Jersey, Virginia, Maryland, and then they randomly have Colorado here. Exxon is also sprinkled in a little bit with Shell. I don't think I've ever been to a speedway in my life, but they are in New Mexico and Minnesota. I wonder what makes these companies like decide they're gonna invest all of their stores into one state. Do they like buy off like the other companies, like, hey, this is our territory, bro, don't start a gang war? Because this is a really like mixed map. I'm really surprised to see that it's not taken over by just like 2 or 3 companies. There's also BP and K. Never heard of Casey's before, but there's that. This is as of 2021. I wonder how much this has changed since like the lockdowns and stuff. A map of this 10 years ago would have been cool. This is called automatic urban generation. So they are selecting a certain part of Paris, France, and somehow computers are just figuring out what it might look like, because they can't tell, right? They don't know for sure. This is insane. So they're looking at the street grids. Oh, and is it perfect? It's not perfect, but it's really close. Wow, just look at that. It practically is perfect. How do they know how tall the buildings are? It's built from open data, so that probably helps a lot. My PC is getting ready to explode just looking at this video. How people call countries motherlands versus fatherlands. The way people refer to certain countries around the world. So first of all, the USA is purple, which means people call it both motherland and fatherland. I've never heard anyone refer to the states like that. In fact, the only 2 places I've heard use these terms are Germany and Russia. I knew Germany was fatherland and I knew Russia was the motherland. But it looks like most countries in Europe do something like that. Central Europe and specifically Northern Europe like to use fatherland, and Southern Europe and the British Isles use motherland. A lot of Africa just kind of avoids it. They probably don't want to be associated with what the Europeans do. They have too many bad memories. It's interesting to see former colonies not use the same thing as the UK use. Like South Africa. South Africa is the only country that was formerly a part of the British Empire that decided to go against the old term. There's also Vietnam and France, which differs, and then the former Spanish colonies. Some are different in South America. I love how the gray is referenced as orphan countries. That's great. Here's a nice transition. Countries that have had female heads of state or government since last century. And there's actually a lot of countries included on this list. Most of Europe and South America, even China. Hey, we were close to getting one in North Korea. Hey, that still might happen, actually. USA is still catching up with that whole thing. It's gonna be very interesting to see what this map looks like in the next 80 years. Gonna assume that most of this will be filled in by the end of the century. Where to get a drink in Europe. All places tagged as either bar, beer garden, cafe, or pub. I've never heard of this term before. Beer garden? Is this German? There is a small difference between all these places. Bars are characterized usually by noisy, vibrant atmospheres. Beer gardens are open-air areas. Cafes are informal places. I for sure thought pubs and bars were the same thing, though. So bars dominate a lot of Western Europe, Spain, France, Italy. Then there's also a lot of cafes, of course, here. I didn't even have to look at that. I just knew that there had to be cafes in Italy. Portugal also loves their cafes. These things are everywhere, as well as in North Africa. Look at all these. They don't even have bars or any alcoholic beverages. Oh, I think that actually, I should have known that. Yeah, those beer garden things are really only in Germany, Austria, maybe a little bit of Czechoslovakia. I'm still using the old term. I'm not gonna stop. I'm sorry. Hungary loves some pubs, though. I knew, obviously, the UK and Ireland would love their pubs. Belgium as well. Look at Russia, though. Russia seems to be a lot of cafes until you get to, is this Moscow? The heart of Moscow is just nothing but bars. It's just completely taken over. Czech Republic, I think, consumes the most alcoholic beverages in all of Europe, or maybe all of the world. No, I think they're second now, so I'm not surprised to see a whole lot of dots in this area. How not to behave in 15 countries. In Chile, do not eat anything with your hands. That's seen as informal. In Croatia, do not raise your thumb, middle, and index finger all at once. You'll be mistaken as a Serbian nationalist. Isn't that like an anime sign? It's close. Or not, people are gonna screenshot that and be like, Serbian nationalist disrespects all of Croatia. Singapore, you can get fined for a lot of things. Oh, isn't gum one? Oh, you can get fined for feeding the birds, spitting, smoking, eating. You can end up going to jail if you kiss in public in India. India or have any physical contact at all. It's taboo to talk about money in France. Probably not very many vegan options. Don't expect people to speak English. Tipping is not a part of Japanese culture. Don't hug people you just met. Kind of get that one. That is a little strange. I've done that before and I always feel awkward. Don't be easily offended in Mexico. Oh yes. I feel like just as an experiment, we should send a bunch of people on Twitter down here just to see what happens. Don't confuse Kiwis with Aussies. Yeah, they definitely won't like that. Don't make fun of rugby, Lord of the Rings, or the Queen of England. Don't freak out about people not wearing shoes. Who'd freak out about that? Who cares about shoes? Yeah, I like this, New Zealand. Don't stare at naked people in Norway. I mean, I will try to avoid that, Norway, but there are no promises. Don't give an even number of flowers as a gift in Russia. It's only done for the deceased. Man, that seems like an easy mistake to make. Don't assume that people support everything the government does. I feel like that's a rule of thumb for every country. Yeah, don't make the OK sign in Turkey. I've heard the OK sign is bad here. Don't blow your nose or pick your teeth in public. That's impolite. I could see that. In the UK, don't cut in line. What? Wait, what? Yeah, you better not cut in line. In America, that is legitimately how you might get stabbed. People are super serious about their lines. Don't invite someone to your home. That is, unless you know them very well. What? In Ireland, don't say top of the morning. It's very outdated. Wow, that literally would have been the first words out of my mouth if I came to this country. Don't be cheap in Ireland too. Don't do the no-no German salute in Germany. I really am wondering how many tourists have been arrested for that. I would not be surprised. Finally, in Kenya, they don't want you to call someone by their first name. Only do this if someone uses their first name with you. That's really formal, kind of interesting and random. This really just goes to show you, if you visit any country outside of your own, you really got to put in the research or else, I don't know, something bad could happen. And big thank you to my patrons. Rye the Pie. This is Gabe. Why am I doing this? I love Mark. Drew has a small peepee, but I give him money anyways. Dalton D. Drew's Argentinian grandpa. BringBackPolandball, AryanAfterHours, Barnsky W, Ivan Lima, Jesse C, LuxembourgLover, Majestic Unicorn, Max Cooper, McBlorf, Mine Brothers 999X2, and Stormtrooper 501. Thank you.